Hello, welcome to the Rational National, the Rational Live, for Friday, May 29th, 2020. I'm your host, David Dole. So there is a good deal to get to, especially as it relates to this recent news story that the officer that murdered George Floyd has finally been charged, and we'll get to the details on that. But before I do anything else, let me remind people that I'm in many places. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitch. Links below the video for all that stuff. Also, that's the Patreon page. Also, link below the video. I don't want to spend too much time on that, though. So let me give you a little preview on what's happening today. So I'll talk about this charge. I'll also discuss Trump's recent tweets. I'll save my thoughts for that story. A crazy story that involves monkeys and COVID-19 samples. So I will get to that. Also, Van Jones calling out white Hillary liberals. That is a great story. And also polling showing that there is one person that consistently polls best as Joe Biden's vice president. And I will discuss that and if it even really matters who Joe Biden picks for VP. There's also some other things that I just didn't have time to prep, but maybe near the end of the stream I'll get to them. Like there's a great speech from NDP's Matthew Green that I would love to cover. I can't cover it properly today. Maybe I'll cover it next week, but maybe I'll show you a clip of that later on. And possibly some other things that I didn't have time to prep. But this is the biggest story right now. So let me also, of course, super chats I'll take throughout the stream as well. Just a reminder on that. But all right, let me start with the big story. So Officer Derek Chauvin, the officer that kneeled on George Floyd's neck, killing him, was finally arrested and charged. So let me give you the details on that here from Mediaite. So you see here their headline, Minneapolis cop Derek Chauvin charged with third-degree murder, manslaughter. Now, before I give you my thoughts on that, on what he's charged with, let me just give you some more of the details here from the story. So, Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter after George Floyd was killed, following his arrest by Chauvin and 3 other officers, according to a press conference from Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman. Now, there's more here. In Minnesota, third-degree murder is killing another person without premeditation and intent through inherently dangerous acts and with no regard for human life. Okay, before I move on, they could definitely have charged him with second degree murder here. But I will say, I think there's actually a better chance of him being convicted here because it's third-degree murder. So, oftentimes what can happen is they'll overcharge, and then these cops will get away with it. But in this case, it is undeniable that George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin. It is on camera. It's undeniable. So to not be able to see this through to a conviction, look, I know we never expect these officers to actually be convicted because they never are. And in this case, it's hard to even imagine it because, again, they never are. But the whole thing is clear as day. And from what I can remember, the only other time that an officer was actually convicted of a similar incident like this and killing somebody was the officer that shot that man in the back. That was a few years ago now, so I forget all the details of that case, but it was on video. You all saw that one. The guy was running away, and the cop shot him in the back, and the guy died. So this is as clear as that was. So because of that, I just can't imagine this not going through. But again, there's rarely ever justice in these cases. So I don't want to, just assume that this is actually going to go through. But one more piece here near the end. Chauvin had 18 previous complaints against him for police brutality, according to the police department. Only 2 of those complaints were closed with discipline. 18 previous complaints, which brings me to the next piece here, something I covered yesterday, Amy Klobuchar's involvement in all this. So she tweeted out, police officer Derek Chauvin has been arrested and is in custody for the murder of George Floyd, the first step towards justice. This is the same lady that let off Derek Chauvin multiple times when she was the prosecutor. So I covered that yesterday. I don't want to get into all the details, but if Amy Klobuchar had done her job as a prosecutor, this murder wouldn't have happened. And here she is trying to, be in the moment and trying to act like, the noble and great leader, Amy Klobuchar here, saying the correct things. When she had the power to do something, she didn't do it. And this is still somebody who is a leading contender for vice president. I imagine at this point, the Biden campaign has to realize they cannot pick her. So, it would just be completely horrible, disgusting politics if they actually picked her as vice president. But I can't imagine the Biden campaign is that stupid. Maybe they are. Maybe they are that stupid. But right now, the way they're hiding Joe Biden all the time, that is a smart political move to hide Joe Biden because he's terrible. So if they're at least aware enough to hide Joe Biden, they should also be aware enough to realize they cannot pick Amy Klobuchar as VP. This was the story I'm obviously referring to here. Amy Klobuchar once declined to prosecute Derek Chauvin, cop, and Floyd death. So again, I covered that in a video yesterday. You can go watch that for all those details. But some more details here that I want to share, or that are stories in relation to this story. David Roddy here. He is the police chief in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He tweeted this out saying, "There is no need to see more video. There is no need to wait to see how it plays out. There is no need to put a knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes. There is a need to do something. If you wear a badge and you don't have an issue with this, turn it in. So I just want to highlight this because this is the bare minimum when it comes to police chiefs around the country. This is the bare minimum approach to creating a culture that looks at human life as human life. So I'm glad this was tweeted out by David Roddy. But again, I don't want to give him too much credit here because this is just like, of course, this shouldn't have to be said. The fact that this has to be said is really showing you how bad the problem is. But at the very least, this should be imitated by other police chiefs around the country. Also, some other pieces in relation to this. So the protests that are going on, you'll hear, conservatives pretend outrage about, oh, think of the small businesses in these protests. Their windows are being broken. Colleen Kelly here tweeted out this Facebook post. Let me read it here. This post is from the family behind beloved Gandhi Mahal restaurant. Says so much about the vibrant South Minneapolis neighborhood where George Floyd protests are happening. So check this out. Hello, everyone. Thank you to everyone for checking in. Sadly, Gandhi Mahal has caught fire and has been damaged. We won't lose hope, though. I am so grateful for our neighbors who did their best to stand ground and protect Gandhi Mahal. Your efforts won't go unrecognized. Don't worry about us. We will rebuild and we will recover. This is Hafsa, Rahul's daughter, writing. As I am sitting next to my dad watching the news, I hear him say on the phone, quote, "Let my building burn. Justice needs to be served. Put those officers in jail." This shows you that these small businesses that are part of this community, they understand what needs to be done here. That they are putting the best interests of the people at large over their own businesses. And I mean, this really shows you, just how incredible these people are. Gandhi Mahal may have felt the flames last night, but our fiery drive to help protect and stand with our community will never die. Peace be with everyone. Hashtag justice for George Floyd. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. So anytime someone tries to give you some phony outrage about these protests, first of all, ask them, were they that outraged about the actual murder of the black man, of George Floyd? Or are they just outraged when it comes to, a brick and mortar store being smashed, when it comes to property? So clearly here, this is the right way to approach this, the humane way to look at this entire situation. One last thing here. I saw this and it really is, the irony here is incredible. Daily Beast story. The wife of fired Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was once charged with writing a bad check for $42, according to reports. Now, a bad check was allegedly the reason that George Floyd was arrested and then eventually murdered by Derek Chauvin, and his wife wrote a bad check. Now, I can't imagine that he put his knee on her for 9 minutes. This is the approach to life that these cops have. So, at least some justice here, hopefully. This is the first step towards justice. But also, the other cops involved. That one guy that was standing just watching the entire thing, who also, by the way, has a history of police brutality in his record as well. They all need to be charged. They all stood there, did nothing. So this isn't just on Derek Chauvin, but of course most of it is. But it isn't just on him. It's also on the other officers that saw this going on, knew that man could not breathe, and didn't do anything about it. All right. Sorry, it's going to be a bit of a heavy live stream until we get to the monkey story. But the world's kind of crazy right now. What can I say? Let me hit up some of these super chats. Gabriel Arcari says, keep up the good work. Regards from Sweden. Laron Williams sends a super chat. Thank you. Mikey Kingston says, is it between Warren and Harris for Veep? If not, who? I don't have the inside deets, but I will get to the story, which revolves around Elizabeth Warren. That comes later on. Samantha Sider says, hashtag justice for George Floyd. Absolutely. Mike Rushton says, did you see the agent provocateur video? You must. So what's funny, I had prepped that video to cover today. I saved it yesterday. I went to click it today, and the Twitter account that had it was suspended, and now I can't find the video. So I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I couldn't find the video. But yes, it looks like from reporting, from video proof, and I believe from his ex-wife as well, confirming this, that there was an officer who was undercover, essentially dressed up as a protester, and he was the one smashing a bunch of windows at one of the locations. So, yeah, this is what often happens. These people go in there to stir up violence, essentially, to try and create violence when there isn't any, when they're just peaceful protests, and then they go, oh, look at that, look how violent these protesters are, when in reality they were the ones that initiated the entire thing. But that video vanished, so I don't know where since that tweet vanished, I don't know where to find it. All right, I had to prep this next story here. All right. So this morning, Donald Trump tweeted out maybe the most insane thing he's ever tweeted. And I know that's saying a lot, but this is an instance where it's not just him, sounding like a madman, but it's actually him potentially leading to the mass death of thousands. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. The first tweet, he tweets out, I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis. A total lack of leadership. Either the very weak radical left mayor, Jacob Frey, get his act together and bring the city under control, or I will send in the National Guard and get the job done right. He goes on to say these thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd as if he really cares. So disingenuous. And I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. Now, I just want to point out here, this even violated Twitter's rules for once. They put this note on here. Now, do I think he's serious? I don't know. But at the very least, this incites violence. So, I mean, right? He's essentially calling for the military to come kill people. That's what he's saying. For damaging property. Now, even if this is an empty threat, which I think it is, this is not something to play around with. And let me give you some historical context to this tweet as well. I'm not even sure if Trump is aware of this historical context. I don't even know if he wrote these tweets himself, or if this was given to him by one of his racist aides. But New York Times reported here, the phrase President Trump tweeted, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, was first used by Miami Police Chief Walter Headley in the 1960s when he sent officers with shotguns and dogs to patrol black neighborhoods. Quote, "This is war," Headley said. So there's some real historical context to that Trump tweet. Now, again, I don't think Trump is that smart to even be aware that that happened. But I'm sure there are people around him that put that in his ear. And I don't think it was an accident that he tweeted that out. Going on here, Igor Volsky really goes into detail on that history. Let me show you a couple tweets of his here. He says, my favorite part is that at this same community meeting, Headley promises that the shotguns and dogs will be used with caution before adding, quote, everyone knows I'm not a racist. I mean, this could be pulled straight from a Donald Trump speech. I mean, this is how Trump speaks, and apparently it's very similar to how Headley spoke. More here. Some more gems from Headley, the guy Trump was quoting in his when the looting starts, shooting starts tweet. This is from the December 1967 presser. This presser and his get tough police tactics are seen as the prime factor in sparking the 1968 Miami riots. So again, it is so incredibly dangerous what Trump tweeted out and just who the man is. He has to be taken out of office. I mean, he has to be defeated. He has to be beaten in the fall. He has to. We're in year 4. Like, this could just be the halfway point for Trump. I don't want to see what a President Trump looks like in the next 4 years, because you know it's not going to get any better. It's only gotten worse every year. And this came out earlier. I'm sure many of you already saw this, but this is essentially the way that the Trump administration views people in general.
We don't have, our capital stock hasn't been destroyed. Our human capital stock is ready to get back to work. And so that there are lots of reasons to believe that we can get going way faster than we have in previous crises. But we don't have
human capital stock. White House advisor Kevin Hassett, our human capital stock is ready to go back to work. Human capital stock. This is how the Trump administration views people. They are objects by which to extract labor. These are people to exploit, not humans that have lives and families and need to be taken care of. No, they're just human capital stock. This is the entire approach of the Trump administration. And it's only going to get worse the longer he's in power. You got to vote this guy out. You have to. He's completely disgusting, and nobody should want to see what can happen in a second Trump term. All right. Don't worry. Funny story coming next, I guess. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it may also be a little worrying. Before I get there, let me hit up some of these chats. Self-taught artist sent me a super sticker. Thank you for the game over sticker. Pertherian says, thank you for all you do. Sweden loves you for the news. Keep it up. Thank you. Deborah Van Sant says, I agree that the other cop needs to be charged as well. 18 complaints. So how many did Klobuchar dismiss? That's a good question. I think at least, I believe it's at least two times that she was where she was the prosecutor when that was going on, but I don't have that data in front of me. But I mean, the point being, nothing was done under her watch. She let it all go through to the grand jury. She didn't care at all. And if you saw my video yesterday, she defended it by saying, well, back then prosecutors never did. I mean, we never prosecuted. We just let it all go. When it came to officers and black men, who cares, right? And now she's saying, well, today, if I was a prosecutor today, I would definitely prosecute. It's really important to look at these cases seriously. Like, give me a break. What a horrible person she is. MAs, thank you for your super chat. Protherian again says, I guess it was a speech by a certain Steven. DVDV says, I'm all for defeating Trump. Bernie's the man for that. Yes, he would have been the man for that. I agree with you. But we're going to get to some polling later that will show you it may not even matter. You could likely put up, I don't know, a piece of wood up against Donald Trump, and the piece of wood would win, a 2x4. So it doesn't. Ultimately, Trump is so hated right now that I think you're going to see a lot of people vote that didn't vote last time. But the one worry I would have is the pandemic right now. And if there is a lack of mail-in voting, are people going to essentially risk their lives to go out and vote? So even if people would vote against Donald Trump, the question is, will they be risking their lives to do that if they can't vote by mail? And I guess that's the big question mark that we don't have the answer to. Because we know the Trump voter doesn't even believe this is a thing. They don't care at all, so they're going to go out and vote. It's not going to matter for them. But for the rest of us that actually live in reality, we have to think about, you got to think about your lives and people around you. Okay, let me see. This just came in. MA sends me the link to the provocateur. I'm not going to do a whole story on this, but I will share this. Just to see. So, Tadashi here tweets out, Yo, is this real? I heard the police department denies it, but his wife identified him as the man who started the looting of Target. If so, this would be entrapment. What do you think? So, again, I'm playing this without knowing if this is legit. From the reporting that I read, and I forget if it was just random people reporting this or if it was an actual story that was out. So I'm not sure if this is real or not. But with that said, let's just play these 48 seconds.
The person that I'm about to show you in this video is police officer Jacob Peterson of the St. Paul Police Department, according to his ex-wife who identified him. In the video, Peterson starts smashing windows and kickstarts the riot in South Minneapolis. This is a very common tactic. As you can see, he has the umbrella to prevent aerial ID. After being confronted by people, he flees the scene. Watch till the end.
I just came with a hammer and smashed the windows.
I'm gonna fight you right now. You wanna go? What's up? Somebody hold my blunt. Hey, somebody hold my blunt. I'm gonna keep it. Hey.
The person that I'm about to show you in this video is...
Okay, so it's kind of hard to follow what's going on there, but essentially this guy who was identified as a cop, this guy here, smashed these windows at Target, essentially trying to instigate, I guess, some kind of riot or whatever. And then apparently his ex-wife confirmed that was him. I'm not sure how she confirmed that. I think she claimed that was her gas mask or something. I'm not again, right now this really is a conspiracy. I don't know. But at the same time, this stuff happens a lot. Yes, there are people that are not part of these protests that go in to start violence. This happens all the time. So it wouldn't be all that shocking. Even if this case isn't true, it doesn't mean it's not happening elsewhere in the city. So just pointing that out. But again, I don't know. So I can't claim if this is real or not. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Mays. Okay. Now for maybe fun story. As fun as things can possibly get right now. Yeah, you're going to see. So So, in what sounds like something out of a movie, monkeys attacked a lab and stole samples of COVID-19. Now, when I read this story, I really did not know what to think because it literally sounds like it's out of a movie. Let me show you the report on this. And it's a short report, so I'm going to read most of the details here since it's worth sharing. From Sky News. Coronavirus. Monkeys escape with COVID-19 samples after attacking lab assistant. One of the primates was reportedly later spotted up in a tree, chewing on one of the sample collection kits. Okay. I think these are the monkeys. A macaw monkey with an offspring clutching onto its torso balances between power lines in New Delhi. So, a gang of monkeys attacked a laboratory assistant and escaped with a batch of coronavirus blood test samples. It has been reported. The bizarre incident saw the troop of primates launch their assaults near Meerut Medical College in Delhi, India. According to local media, the animals then snatched COVID-19 blood test samples that had been taken from 3 patients and fled. So there is video of this, of them in the trees with the samples. All right. Not much to really see there, except for a monkey in a tree. But they go on to say one of the monkeys was later spotted in a tree chewing one of the samples. I guess that was him. Adding that test samples from the patients had to be taken again. The undamaged kits were later recovered, the Meerut Medical College Superintendent Dheeraj Raj told AFP. He added, they were still intact, and we don't think there is any risk of contamination or spread. Okay, so thank God we can really just laugh at this story and not take it too seriously, because hopefully this is true, that they were still intact, even though I guess they were chewing on one of the samples. But still intact, no risk of contamination or spread. It is the latest example of the highly intelligent, red-faced macaws taking advantage of India's nationwide lockdown to combat the spread of coronavirus. All right, so just I really have nothing to add to this story because, I mean, what could I possibly add to this? This is just completely bizarre. We are living in a crazy world right now. I mean, most of it is negative. And I would even argue this, you could say, is negative as well. But it's the kind of thing where nothing is surprising anymore. I'm just not surprised. Yeah, of course monkeys attacked the lab and took COVID-19 samples. Of course. Why wouldn't they? Because everything else crazy is going on. So what else? Yeah, I was reading, I saw some tweets earlier of people saying that, you know, the history books on 2020 are going to be crazy because there's going to be a lot to study for kids, you know, in 15, 20 years that are going to be studying this time. There's going to be a lot to go over. So, I mean, maybe this will make it in, but considering how much has already gone on, I'm guessing this is one of the stories that'll be glossed over. Okay. What a crazy story. Crazy. All right, I got a Van Jones story coming up. Just give me a minute here. Let's see if there are any more chats. Alexei Dominov says, given past elections, will a Biden win get more Republicans to come out in the midterm and Senate races? If the Republicans take the House and Senate, Biden will resist. Will Biden campaign against Justice Dems? Lots of questions here. Given past elections, will a Biden win get more Republicans to come out in the midterm and Senate races? So you're talking about in 2 more years? Generally what happens is, yeah, for the most part, it seems, you know, you win the presidency, and then in 2 years, the other party comes out big because they're angry about losing the presidency. And then there's this back and forth that apparently is not being broken at any point. So I think that the only way you could really break that back and forth is by having a truly transformational candidate or a president that will enact some actual, real change that is felt by the vast majority of people. So you'll have people come out and support you, 2 years after becoming president. So yeah, I imagine, say Biden wins, say they win the Senate, which is a long shot, but say they win the Senate and keep the House. There's a good chance that in 2 years, there's going to be backlash from Republicans that'll come out in bigger numbers. But that's going to happen. It's better than Trump staying president for 4 more years. So I don't, yeah. Will Biden campaign against Justice Dems? I don't know if they'll, I don't think he would vocally campaign against progressives, but he will essentially do what the Democratic Party establishment's already doing, which is running their own corporate-friendly candidates against progressive candidates. So that will continue. I'm sure Biden will back those corporate candidates like other prominent Democratic leaders have in the past. So I'm sure that whole thing will continue. I don't think he'll try and elevate, progressive challengers by naming them or by calling out Justice Dems directly. But the moves behind the scenes definitely will have a negative impact or attempt to have a negative impact on those more left-wing candidates. A couple more here. William Emerson says waiting on Bruce Willis to drop out of a time loop. Michael says, hi, shave that porn stash, otherwise very handsome. You got to check the comments. There is mixed reporting on that. Some people like the mustache, others don't. I feel like it was time for a change. The world's weird right now. The least I can do is change how I look a little bit. So you'll get used to it. Don't worry about it. All right. The next story. So CNN's Van Jones was on CNN and discussed the white liberal Hillary Clinton supporters that are racist, essentially calling out white liberals for being racist. So let me show you the clip here and why he is exactly right, not just because of anecdotal evidence, but actual polling that has been done on this. So first, here is the clip.
It's not the racist white person who's in the Ku Klux Klan that we have to worry about. It's the white liberal Hillary Clinton supporter walking her dog in Central Park who would tell you right now, people like that, oh, I don't see race. Race is no big deal to me. I see us all as the same. I give to charities. But the minute she sees a black man who she does not respect or who she has a slight thought against, she weaponized race like she had been trained by the Aryan Nation. A Klans member could not have been better trained to pick up the police and pick up her phone and tell the police it's a black man, African-American man, come get him. So even the most liberal, well-intentioned white person has a virus in his or her brain that can be activated at an instant. And so what you're seeing now is a curtain falling away.
So there you go. Van Jones calling out the white Hillary Clinton liberal racists. Now, I would just say I don't know if a virus is the right way to discuss racism. I wouldn't really call it calling it a virus assumes that, oh, it's just in their brains. It's natural for them to be racist. And there's nothing you can really do about it because it's a virus. But it's like, I don't think he's trying to say that, but calling it a virus, I think, conveys that message. So it's not really a virus. I mean, there are people. There's a whole system. I mean, capitalism in North America is set up to benefit white people. I mean, it was designed by white people on the backs of slave labor. So inherently, that is built into the system. So to just call it a virus, I think it does it a disservice. At the same time, though, I'm glad he's calling out the white Hillary Clinton liberals for their racism. And understand racism permeates all ideologies, all parties. There are people that are, very left-wing Bernie supporters that are also racist. It isn't just, conservatives. It permeates everybody. But it is very present within the white liberal Hillary Clinton class of people. Now, Brianna Joy Gray tweeted this out in response, saying Van Jones is right. Over 20% of Hillary supporters think blacks are less intelligent than whites. About 30% say we're more violent and more criminal. Quote, Trump is worse is a weak bomb for those of us on the receiving end of this racism. So she's referring to this data here. I know it can be hard to see. It's hard for me to see as well. But this, where is it from? So this is a Reuters Ipsos poll back in 2016. And if you can see what you can see here. So basically racial attitudes of presidential candidate supporters. So they asked people that are supporters of Clinton, Trump, Sanders, Cruz, and Kasich back then. Basically asking them, hey, how do you feel about black people's, say, intelligence compared to whites, or work ethic, or manners, violence, lawfulness? And as you can see here, even a percentage of Sanders supporters, about, say, 18% here, view blacks as less intelligent than whites. But Clinton supporters are right up there with Cruz and Kasich at over 20%. And it's the same across the board. Work ethic, Clinton right up there. Manners, same thing. Violence, same thing. Lawfulness, same thing. Obviously, Trump supporters are a lot worse. That's clear from this data as well. But the point being here is that it isn't just the conservative voter that feels this way. And, Van Jones in his video here was clearly talking about Amy Cooper. I covered this story as well. In Central Park, she was faced with Christian Cooper, who asked her to put her dog on a leash in a part of the park that is for bird watching, where your dog should be leashed. And in response to that, instead of just leashing her dog, Amy Cooper called the cops and acted like she was all scared because she was being about to be assaulted by an African-American man, as she described to the cops. I mean, weaponizing that racism. So, and she is somebody, Amy Cooper, it ended up coming out, she's a Clinton supporter, or was a Hillary Clinton supporter, and a Pete Buttigieg donor. I mean, you could almost design these people in a lab. Of course, she was both a Hillary supporter and a Pete Buttigieg supporter. It makes perfect sense. So, Van Jones here, I think, pointing out correctly that we need to be aware that this racism permeates everybody, and it's the casual racism, the racism of the liberals that you really need to be aware of, because they're the ones that often try and hide it the best when they're the ones that are the most dangerous. All right. Trader Shamer sends a super chat in saying, what is your honest solution for progressives taking over the Democratic Party, or should we split? I'm tired of the DNC. So there is no one solution fits all. I think it's important to have this pressure everywhere. So continue primarying out corporate Democrats within the party, especially focus on leadership positions. I know it's tougher to take out leaders, people like, Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, but those are the people that are essentially in charge of the party and have designed it to be this corporate party. Now, even if you take out, say, Pelosi and Schumer, there's no guarantee that they won't be replaced with someone else just like them. But that's why when it comes to, the leadership of the party, you really need to focus on everybody. So, people like Steny Hoyer, Pelosi, Schumer, etc. So that's where the focus should be. At the same time, there is no you also have to be, I think, focusing on local politics, state politics. You actually have to build a movement. People look, it's the wrong approach to look at voting, or to look at the election every 4 years as the way to enact change. That's the wrong way to look at it, because the actual work is done between elections. That's how you actually build interest, build movements. And you do that by engaging people on the ground, engaging people that aren't normally into politics, engaging apolitical people. I mean, that is so 40% of the country does not normally vote. So if you can engage that 40% and bring that energy into, say, a progressive movement, a left-wing movement, or local politics, left-wing politics, state politics, and you begin to build that interest in a larger project, that's how you actually get to the point where eventually during or at a general election, you can have a candidate that is more left-wing and viable, because you've built that movement on the ground over that 4-8 years. So that's really the real energy needs to be put. It can't just happen. You can't just look every 4 years and think, oh, okay, I'm going to vote Green Party this time. Like, not everybody thinks the way you do. In fact, most people don't. Most people look at voting right now as these two options, as Democrats or Republicans. And the only way to change that is to build something over those years before the elections. Because people don't just wake up 6 months before the election and think, well, now I'm going to vote third party. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually engage people and change those minds over the course of years. It takes time. So just don't look at these elections as the only time to be engaged in politics. You have to look at it as an ongoing project, because that's what it is. Which is why, this is why I look at voting as a tool, as harm reduction. Because if you look at voting as your, all your hopes and desires into your vote, it's not a realistic way to look at voting, because that isn't how it works. No candidate is perfect. And of course, I think it's important to have some standards in terms of what you expect out of a politician. But that's why the actual work is done before the elections and during the primary. During the primary is your real choice, putting up real candidates that actually represent your interests. But when it comes to the actual general election vote, I think it's simply harm reduction. You're looking at it as a tool, as, hey, how can I, reduce harm in this situation? So in the case of Democrats versus Republicans, you look at the Iran deal, look at abortion rights. Look at climate change. Now, of course, on, some of those issues like climate change, of course, Democrats are not great either, but there is a difference there. There is a reduction of harm under Democrats compared to Republicans. And at the same time, under a potential Biden presidency, so let me start this differently. Under Barack Obama, when he won, he put a lot of people to sleep because people assumed, oh, well, we got Barack Obama now, hope and change. He's got it, he's got this done. He'll go to work for us, and we don't got to think about politics anymore. Well, what ended up happening is Barack Obama completely abandoned his movement and simply listened to the people around him, people in, Wall Street, special interests. And ultimately, he's just another neoliberal. So, but he was able to convince enough people that he was the real deal with his grandiose speeches. Now, in the case of Joe Biden, I don't think has the ability to put the left to sleep because he's not inspiring. He doesn't have those speeches. Joe Biden has nothing. And you're even seeing people like Joy Reid on MSNBC be critical of Joe Biden and bring people on that are critical of Joe Biden. So if you're seeing that criticism now, you will see it when he has power. And that is an avenue for for the left to have some power. Now, I'm under no illusion that you're going to pass Medicare for all, or you're going to have, a $16 trillion Green New Deal or free public college, like universal free public college. I'm under no illusion that's going to happen. But the point being that the left has an avenue towards criticism and power when it's under a Democratic president. Under Trump right now, what's happened? Has the left really improved under Trump? No. So, you have to understand here, yes. First of all, I want to say, if you're not voting Biden, I'm not shaming you. I don't care. I'm offering my opinion of the whole thing as somebody who can't even vote. But the way I view the election in the U.S. So vote, don't vote, vote for Biden, stay home, or I would say don't stay home. At least vote down ballot. But the point being here, that there is, once you're able to remove yourself from the idea that you're putting your entire thoughts and feelings and desires into a vote, once you can remove that out of you and realize that voting is just a tool for harm reduction, then it becomes a lot easier, and you have this clarity of realizing that the actual fight is between the votes, is between the 4 years, is between every 4 years, and it's not that singular vote in the election. So when you realize that, it becomes a lot, you begin to understand that, yeah, this is, the actual change has to happen before the election, not at the election. And you saw, I mean, let's be honest here. You saw back in 2016, some people, even at times, I think I thought this, that, hey, if Trump wins, even though I said you should vote for Hillary back then, but I thought, at times I thought this, if Trump wins, maybe it'll really activate the left. And in 4 years, you're definitely going to have a Bernie Sanders presidency, because people will hate Donald Trump and they'll all go out and vote and become more progressive, go more left wing. Well, that didn't exactly happen. In fact, now what most voters, as we saw during the primary, most reliable voters, what they want is just a return to normalcy. And at this point, anything will do for them, which is why Joe Biden is the nominee. Like, if you had, let's say, Marco Rubio, let's say he was president, and it was a typical Republican president, Joe Biden would not be the nominee right now. I mean, I think it's safe to say, under any other scenario, Joe Biden would not be the nominee. But the reason he was able to be the nominee this time is because people wanted something that was, in their minds, reliable, a return to normalcy. And Joe Biden, in their minds, is a direct return to normalcy because he was the vice president under Barack Obama. So you wouldn't have had that if it were Marco Rubio or like John Kasich. But under Donald Trump, people, their expectations have been lowered to the point where, hey, anybody but Trump, and if they think that Biden has the best ability to defeat Donald Trump, then that's who they're going to support, because they just want to get Trump out. So it lowered everybody's standards in terms of what they expect out of a president. So the idea that, a very conservative right-wing president is going to lead to a left-wing rebellion, it's just not true. It's just not true. You have to actually build that energy between elections. That's where the actual movement is made. But thank you for that super chat that I completely forgot where I even started. Where was I? No, I think I did. Hold up. Thought there was another super chat. There is. Here it is. Okay. AK Johnny, 1965. Thank you for your super chat. Michael has a super chat saying, some people say you hate secular talk and vice versa. What? I think Kyle Klinsky's awesome. I have no problems with him. I'm not sure where that's even coming from. MAs, thank you for your super chat. MAs again. More video of the police inciting the violence. Okay, let me check this. Check this real quick. Reminder, I do have more stories coming up. I just want to tackle some of these chats first. Oh yeah, this. So let me just show this. I shared this on Instagram earlier. This is in Minneapolis, of course. Watch what happens. Look at that. The police pepper spraying randomly, just as they drive by. Nothing even happening. Yeah. Lucas Zed sends a super chat in saying, appreciate your work to spread facts and information to everyone. You do a good job encouraging critical thinking. Thanks for helping humanity. Thank you, Lucas. Turn Jackson says about 15 years ago, the FBI came out with a memo saying that white supremacists are trying to recruit and infiltrate the police ranks. Would one way to combat police brutality be for black people to increase the amount of black officers? In some ways, yes, but there's data on this that there's also racism that is enacted, I guess, by black officers as well, because it's police culture. So, while yes, absolutely, I agree that police forces should represent their communities, both in terms of race, ethnicity, and where people live, so they have some relation to and some awareness of where they are and the people in that community. So when you have officers that actually know the people in the community, yes, they're going to be better officers. So I think that's definitely an important point here. But just the idea that black officers can't be racist against black people is just, it's not in the data. The data shows that no, actually it still exists. It's because of the police culture that permeates these forces. Swirly Swirl says, have you seen the report that a cop was the one who started the vandalism? I covered that earlier. Rewind. I addressed that in a tweet. Hardcore FPS says, is America screwed if police reform doesn't happen? Yeah. I mean, I guess yes, it is screwed. There definitely needs to be police reform. I guess it all depends on what you view, on what the word screwed means to you. Like, what does that actually look like? As I think America's pretty screwed up right now. But clearly, yeah, there needs to be some real changes. Trader Shamer says, thank you, David. Thank you, Trader. Elise Balk says, if it takes 3 years to get a humanities degree, it should take 3 years to become a qualified cop. Yeah, there needs to be a, I was going to say training, but training isn't even, there needs to be so much done. I don't have it in front of me, but there is a fantastic outline that I saw put together. I think Black Lives Matter and some other groups have shared what needs to be done in police forces. Part of it is having police that represent the community. Part of it is, having basically community oversight over the police force. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it. And yeah, you could argue as well that cops should be paid more, but be paid more also meaning that you have to be a lot more qualified to become an officer. So I think that is also something to be looked at here, because a lot of police are underpaid. And I'm not saying they're underpaid that they deserve more money for their behavior, but I'm saying the fact that they are underpaid attracts people that are just not qualified to be officers. So if you raise the pay and you have some actual standards when it comes to being an officer, and people are actually held accountable, it requires an entire shift in the culture. And that also takes time. Changing police culture takes real time. And it's part of the problem. Okay, let me stop there and get this next story up. All right. So I think we can all agree that for Joe Biden, there is really no perfect choice for vice president, at least in terms of who he would pick. He's not going to pick Bernie Sanders. He's not going to pick Nina Turner. And apart from that, in terms of who Biden is actually willing to pick, there is no perfect choice. But there is a lot of polling now that favors Elizabeth Warren. Now, I'm under no illusion that Elizabeth Warren is a good politician. We've seen her again and again sell people out. Just this week, I believe there was a report that she is fundraising, going to a big dollar fundraiser for Joe Biden after running an entire campaign acting like big money was the biggest issue in politics. Here she is doing a big donor fundraiser. But just in terms of the Joe Biden campaign and their strategy, if they are thinking about winning, according to polling, Elizabeth Warren appears to be their choice, or appears to be the best choice for them, at least based on the data. So this from Morning Consult. Among rumored vice presidential candidates, Warren would give Biden the biggest boost. So let me get to the actual data here. So a Warren VP candidacy would help Biden most with younger voters and minorities. Again, I want to make sure it's clear here. I don't support Elizabeth Warren. I don't like Elizabeth Warren. I think I would not trust her at all. But with that said, when it comes to fighting a Democratic White House, Elizabeth Warren is somebody that I would love to make videos against and essentially talk about, look, she isn't pushing for Medicare for all as vice president. What's up with her? Why isn't she doing this? I mean, it gives you extra pressure points in terms of somebody who at least pretended to care about people, pretended to fight for people, pretended to fight for issues like Medicare for all or free public college or whatever it is, climate change issues. It gives you that extra leverage when it comes to fighting the White House. Now, based on this data, Elizabeth Warren, you see here, would help Joe Biden among all voters by 3. Under age 45, where Biden's really struggling, by 12. Among black voters, 24. Among Hispanic voters, 28. And you compare that with Amy Klobuchar, it's really not even close. Klobuchar, Kamala Harris. Looking here, Elizabeth Warren is a lot better with black voters and Hispanic voters than Kamala Harris does. Stacey Abrams as well. Gretchen Whitmer. And then, you start going down the list here, and it goes in the negatives. Abrams is negative with ages 45 and up, as I guess all of them are. But Val Demings, yeah. So really here, based on this data, Elizabeth Warren would be their best bet. Now, I'm sharing this because I think this is going to have an impact on the campaign, especially now you're seeing Klobuchar being directly tied to the officer that killed George Floyd, to her inaction with him. I think that will cross Amy Klobuchar off the list, and you're left with Elizabeth Warren, who in general has been polling well. So I do think it's going to help the campaign lean more towards Elizabeth Warren than really anybody else. But also, it may not even matter. It may not matter at all. And I really think it's not going to matter who Joe Biden picks as his vice president, because when you're looking at polling now, Biden is really beginning to destroy Trump in polling. This is actually lowballing it in terms of the polls I've seen, but this is a Real Clear Politics average of polling. So nationally, Biden's up by 5. But you go to the battleground states: Pennsylvania, Biden plus 6.5; Michigan, Biden plus 5.5; Arizona plus 4; Florida plus 3; Wisconsin plus 2. So I've seen national polls that have Biden up by 11 points. But what really matters here are the states, state by state, the battleground states. And Joe Biden right now is doing well. And it's not because, understand, it's not because of Joe Biden. Joe Biden isn't doing anything to gain any support. It's because Donald Trump. Donald Trump has royally screwed up this crisis. And it's leading people to really want to get out Donald Trump, in addition to the past 3 years as well that have led to this entire situation. So I don't really think it's going to matter who Joe Biden picks as VP. And in some ways, you could even argue maybe it's better if it's someone like Amy Klobuchar, because you may even see people like, Joy Reid or Chris Hayes attack or criticize a Biden-Klobuchar administration in ways that they maybe wouldn't under a Biden-Warren administration. But with that said, if just looking at this through the lens of the Biden campaign, if they're looking at data like this, and I know this is one poll, but this is consistent with the polling that I've seen when it comes to VP picks for Joe Biden. Now, I would love to see the same polling. I would love to see them include Bernie Sanders, even though we know Biden said he's going to pick, a woman VP, so it's not going to be Bernie Sanders. But I would, just in terms of knowing where people sit on these issues and where voters sit in terms of their views on Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, I would love to see what people feel or how people would feel like or about a Bernie Sanders vice presidency, because I bet you his numbers would be a lot higher than Elizabeth Warren's here. But again, based on the people that Biden would actually consider picking, Elizabeth Warren right now, I think, may in fact be their front runner. Okay. Let me hit some super chats, and then I'm going to see if I can share a bit of this speech that I watched yesterday, because I quite enjoyed it. But first, some chats. Joe Krockenberg sends a super chat saying Biden is better than Trump. Coming from a Bernie voter, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden in Florida. Did you ever see that Mark Cuban interview with Hannity? I did not. I don't enjoy Mark Cuban. I mean, maybe he's a little better now, but I find him to be kind of pompous, kind of, I don't know, kind of full of himself. He just rubs me the wrong way. I don't really care for his opinions on politics generally, so it's not something I seek out. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Michael says, "Are you gay, bro? I hope you are. How tall are you?" Whoa. No, I am not. How tall am I? Should I give this information out? I'm about 6 feet. I'm 6 feet. Owen Gobo says, your thoughts about AOC saying that she's open to nuclear power plants. Dor played a clip yesterday. To be honest, it's just not my area. When it comes to nuclear, I don't know. I've seen mixed opinions, mixed reporting. I've seen some people say that you have to completely to renewables and cut out nuclear power. I've seen others say that, I guess my position, just from what I know, is, yeah, I say no more new nuclear power plants. I guess the ones that exist can exist, but the issue becomes nuclear waste, from my understanding. Again, someone who's not an expert, but my understanding is the issue with nuclear waste, essentially, wherever you put it, you can't use that land for 1,000 years. So I just, from that standpoint, it seems kind of ridiculous to continue building nuclear power plants. But again, I'm not an expert, so I don't want to get too deep on that because I just honestly don't know. Shawnee is Cubs fan, says, hi, David, love your show. I'm happy that Chauvin has been charged. He won't survive prison. Cheers from Illinois. P.S. I'm voting green in November. I should also mention in my discussion when it comes to voting, it does matter where you live, right? If you live in New York or California, the arguments I'm making, I guess, don't really apply to you because those are the states where you should be building third parties. But with so many states now essentially being battleground states like Arizona, potentially even Texas, I just think for most voters, it's something you really got to think hard about, and really look at voting, as I discussed earlier, as a tool and not as putting all your hopes and desires and dreams into a vote. It's all the work is done between elections. It's not done, every 4 years. It's done between the elections. Okay. Let me grab. Okay, I'm going to see This is an 8-minute speech. I'm not going to play the 8-minute speech, but it was a good speech. And I want to see if I can find the part that I want to hear. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. So Matthew Green, who is an NDP MP in Canada, gave a great speech. I believe this was 2 days ago. It's 8 minutes long. I'm not going to play it all. But this is somebody that I see as a future leader in Canada. That isn't to say, look, Jagmeet Singh's the leader of the NDP right now. He's doing a solid job. He just got the Liberals to essentially concede and support 10 paid sick days in Canada nationally. But Matthew Green definitely, I think, is going to be a person we're going to hear more from in the future. Now, I'm not going to play this whole thing, but there is a part of the speech that I do want to share. And this is the part of the video where I cut as I look for the actual part of the speech.
Is a story right here today. We are in historic times. The honor and privilege that our constituents have instilled in us to be here representing not their financial interests, but their very lives, which are at stake, is the single most important thing I will do professionally in my entire life. And for that, I'll make no apologies. I'll make no apologies for the work that we've done in this House as New Democrats to deliver for Canadians. If there are members present here today who feel like they're not at work, who feel like they haven't been able to get things done, that is on their own accord, Mr. Speaker. Because as New Democrats, when we put the proposal to create a hybrid system that would allow every voice across this country to be represented, we did it from a small but a mighty caucus. 24 members representing every corner of this country, from Nunavut to St. John's to Windsor to Skulkeny Valley way up in the north of BC. We understand the complexities. We understand the passion of the small business owner who is about to lose everything after working decades to just be able to provide for their family. We understand the worker who is forced into meatpacking plants like Cargill, knowing the risk that they're going to undertake to ensure that we have food security. We understand what it's like for the single parent who's at home trying to make the heartbreaking decisions on whether they're going to be able to put food on their table or pay rent. And there have been compelling visions for the future of this country presented throughout this crisis. And that the rush to get back to work is not coming from the working class. Let's be clear about that. It's coming from the capitalist class. We've heard lots of opinions about what socialism looked like. We've heard very maligning comments about, how did you get to work today? How do you like oil and gas? Well, I would ask you, how do you like your health care? How do you like your public education? How do you like all the goods and services that we cherish as Canadians that were brought from a social democratic state? Things that separate us from other countries around this world. We have an opportunity in this House. We have an opportunity to deliver for all Canadians. We have an opportunity to deliver for every person who happens to be in this country during this pandemic. We have not only an opportunity, but we have a moral imperative. Regardless of your citizenship, if you're a temporary foreign worker, if you're an undocumented person who's made it to this soil, seeking freedom, seeking the liberty that our conservative friends will so talk about, everybody deserves to have a chance at life through this pandemic, and we know that not everybody's experiencing it equally.
All right, so that was the piece I wanted to share. Starting from the capitalist class. Wait, here we go. So that was the piece I wanted to share. Starting from when he's talking about the capitalists that are the real ones that want to get people back to work, down to this part here. This is a potential future leader, I think, of the NDP. Matthew Green right now, he's, from what I've seen, definitely one of the more promising NDP MPs. Let me show you just Christo Avalis, who I've had on the show many times. Christo is awesome. He interviewed Matthew Green recently. I suggest you check out this interview. It is fantastic. Go check it out. So, I mean, I gotta say, it is rare to see a Canadian politician have this sort of energy when it comes to expressing themselves in politics. We need this, and it's not just performative either. He has the chops to back it up. He truly is someone that fights for working people and is vocal against massive corporations like Amazon. That was touched on actually in his interview with Christo here. So there are very few things that give me hope right now in this world. But when I see politicians like this, I get a little optimistic about the future of Canada, about where we can go, and understand that the neoliberal politics that we have right now, the Justin Trudeau liberals, that isn't the best that we can be. We can be a lot better, and I think Matthew Green is able to paint that picture. Alrighty. Also, a couple things here. I just want to do a quick shout out here to Rashida Tlaib. If you are in Rashida Tlaib's district, make sure you are paying attention right now to what is going on. So Jordan All tweets out here, holy shit, shortly before Detroit City Council, Pres Brenda Jones voted to give $250 million in tax dollars to billionaire Dan Gilbert and Quicken Loans to further his real estate empire in Detroit. Quicken execs flooded her with money in her race against Rashida Tlaib. So Rashida Tlaib right now has a challenger. Make sure you are supporting Rashida Tlaib. I think one of the most important voices right now in the Democratic House is Rashida Tlaib, and it's someone. This is a point I wish I made earlier when it came to discussing the politics of all this in the presidency. You are going to see a few people be a little more unencumbered, be a little more in the fight when it comes to Democrats holding power in the White House. So what I mean by that is, look under Barack Obama. You had Bernie Sanders vocally fight Barack Obama when it came to Obama potentially cutting Social Security with the grand bargain. Now you're seeing a lot of the fight is neutered. Not just from Bernie, but the fight from AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar right now towards the Democratic Party is neutered. And it's because they see, I think, to their point, or to be fair, they see Trump as the threat. He's the guy that has the power. And they may feel that politically, it may not look good on them if they're always fighting the Democratic Party establishment over fighting Donald Trump. Now, I would say that their approach there is wrong. I actually think they would get a lot more done if they fought Nancy Pelosi more vocally, more publicly than they are. But with that said, if Democrats have control of the White House, you're going to see them fight the Democratic White House the way Bernie Sanders did with Barack Obama, because there is no longer that excuse. If Trump's out of the White House, Democrats no longer have an excuse. And that includes Democratic politicians. The progressive ones that right now have this, this neutered fight against Democratic leadership. So I just think it's important to look at the bigger picture here and the ability or the avenue it opens up for many of these politicians right now to push for more if they had someone in the White House that they feel they could actually push and have some leverage over when it comes to Democrats over Republicans. So there is a difference there as well. And anyone that says, oh, but under Barack Obama, they all went to sleep. They didn't do any fight. Well, first of all, they didn't. Bernie Sanders was out there fighting. But if you're talking about the movement, yeah, I agree with you. As I discussed earlier, Obama's movement did go to sleep because Obama was a talented politician that was able to give these grandiose speeches and act like he was doing more than he actually was. But Joe Biden doesn't have that talent. You have to be aware Joe Biden does not have the ability to put the left to sleep the way Barack Obama did, which means you may actually be able to have a vocal, angry left out in the streets under Joe Biden in a way that didn't really exist under Barack Obama. With that said, though, there still was fight under Barack Obama. So it's not like Occupy. That was under Barack Obama. So these fights still went on. But you will see that, multiplied under Joe Biden, who isn't inspiring at all. So I think it's important to point these things out. Again, not shaming anybody. I'm not going to shame you for how you vote, just as the way I would assume you wouldn't shame me for arguing what I'm arguing. I think it's just fair to have these debates. I think it's fair to put these ideas out there, these debates out there, and understand that there are different approaches, different ways of thinking about voting, and to take all of it in and then decide for yourself what makes sense. All right. Am I done? I'm going to take the super chats now. Whatever is left. So send in those chats because there's a delay on the stream, about a minute delay. Freddie, where am I? No, I'm not there. I am here. I think I'm here. Sean is a Cubs fan. No, I think I read your tweet or your message. Love your show. Happy that Chauvin has been charged. He won't survive prison. Yeah, I read that. Fred, by the way, I'm just reading your super chats. I'm not saying I agree with them. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily think that's the way to go about things, but okay. Freddie Maldonado says, are people not aware you are the straight Mike Figueredo? Or he's the gay you? Whatever, keep up the great work, bud. Thank you, Freddie. Car Wash Freak 97 says, Amy Klobuchar, she needs to step down as senator. I agree. I said the same thing yesterday. C. Zodi, I don't really know what you're saying here. Export rebuilt nuclear equals cheapest OCO2 e-source. This is not my field, but thank you for the super chat. Ekan Ahmed says, appreciate your coverage. Thank you. Nick Baker says, David is being modest. He's actually 6'9", 420 pounds. Oh, I see what you did there. 6'9", 420. Very, very clever. Zodi says, should use as a transition fuel only, waste issue. Oh, so I think you're talking about nuclear should be used as a transition fuel only because of a waste issue. And you are limited, I assume, by the character count on YouTube Super Chats, which I know is stupid because it makes my life harder trying to read these chats. Junie McGrath says, I think Trump is the most incompetent, feckless president the U.S. has ever seen. 100,000 dead from COVID, 40 million unemployed. An eviction crisis may happen. I can't name a redeeming quality about him. I think you hit the nail on the head, Junie. Yes. Banana Fish 58 says, thank you for sharing the Matthew Green speech and all you do, David. P.S. I generally don't like mustaches, but really digging yours. See that? Mixed reporting on this. You will find that some people like it and some don't. And the ones that don't, you will eventually get used to it and forget that it was never there. And then when I get rid of it eventually in a few years, you'll be like, hey, you look weird without the mustache. And this is how it works. People just get used to how you look a certain way and then you change and they have to get used to it again. Gretzky R says, you should interview the Green Party and Justice Dems. Funny you should say that. There is an email I have to respond to. Here's the thing. If you email me, and maybe some of you have, don't expect a response because there's too many. I get too many emails. I'll be honest with you. That's why this is my real interaction with the community is through super chats and that kind of thing. But with that said, a Green Party interview may be happening in the future. And and Justice Dems. I don't remember if this person is a Justice Democrat. Let me actually check this. But I'm going to talk with Jen Perlman again. So we have an interview or discussion next week. She is running for Debbie Wasserman Schultz's seat. Jen Perlman for Congress. Make sure you support her. I already have an interview with her. She's great. Check her out. She's awesome. So I'll interview her again next week. So we'll talk about everything going on and her fight for Congress. So, and yeah, yes, I should do more interviews. I agree with you. It's just, it's not my wheelhouse generally. It's just, I don't know. Like I almost feel the best way to platform these people is just do it through like live streams like this or through Twitter or something, because interviews with people that I already agree with on everything, I don't know how engaging it really is when it's a politician where it's like, oh, you support all the things I like, Medicare for all, free public college. Clearly, like when it comes to certain races, like against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, or I should also interview Shahid Buttar when it comes to those sorts of races where you really want to focus on who they're fighting against as well and everything they've done wrong when it comes to Wasserman Schultz or Pelosi or whoever, then I see more of a reason to engage in those kinds of discussions. But I hear you. It's just something that, I'm also I gotta be honest, I'm a little shy. I'm kind of a shy dude. So having discussions with new people is not the easiest thing for me sometimes. So it just takes some work, some mental work. All right. I should also mention, before I read more of these super chats, I have a new Twitch show that I'm doing in the mornings. So I did the first practice run, I guess, on Thursday. You can go check that out. I think those streams exist on the Twitch channel at least like a week after it airs. So go check that out. But basically, I wake up in the morning. It's usually before I've showered. So I'm kind of, I'm not presented well visually. But I check out what's going on in the news. A lot of it's engaging with the chat and seeing what people are talking about and getting their perspectives and their questions. So a lot of it's that, but it's about an hour long, 10 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m. Monday to Thursday. I can't do Fridays because I do this live stream, so I got to prep the live stream. But Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., twitch.tv/The Rational National. Link to that Twitch channel is below the video in the description box. So make sure you follow the channel and subscribe if you want to support me there as well. But I think it's important to be a little more engaged on Twitch. YouTube has kind of doesn't treat us the best when it comes to independent media. So I don't want to give YouTube all my love. I want to kind of spread it around a little bit, build some interest and support on Twitch as well. I enjoy the engagement that Twitch offers. So yeah, I'll be doing more of that. But anyways, back to some of these chats. Fuji Wags says, always great commentary, David. Thanks, from Australia. Bose Einstein says, should the cop who choked Floyd to death take first-degree murder instead of third? Another cop sitting on the victim get second degree. They took orders from the top, by the way. NDP has got my vote for now. That was all over the place. Okay. Yeah, when it comes to... So I discussed this during the beginning of the stream, and I was talking about George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. Yeah, they could definitely push for more. But what often happens is that, say they push for first-degree murder, he'll get off. When it comes to third degree and manslaughter, there is a more likely chance that he may actually be convicted just because of the way the system operates. There's a better chance of him being convicted for third-degree murder than he would with first-degree murder. So that's I'm not saying he shouldn't be charged with more. I think he should be. But if you're just looking at it in terms of getting actual justice, the only avenue may be through third-degree murder and manslaughter. When it comes to the other cops that were around him, yeah, they should also be charged. This is not just on Derek Chauvin, even though most of it is. But the cops that were just standing there watching, no, they knew the guy was dying. He could not breathe. People were around telling him, hey, this guy is not breathing. And he continued to kneel on him. So the cops not stepping in and at least doing something, yeah, they should all be charged. And good for your vote for the NDP. I think they're doing a good job right now. Shadow Zach says Bernie Sanders has 1,000 delegates now. Now he can still win the nomination. No, he can't. I don't think so. He has 1,000. Biden has 1,500. In addition to that, there are also super delegates that are on a second ballot. So I guess it don't matter for the first ballot. But no, Bernie dropped out. So unless Biden drops out somehow, Bernie's not going to be the nominee. He's not the nominee. Biden is essentially the nominee. So I wouldn't hold on to any hope. I'm not going to give you false hope here. No, it's not happening. Kevin Fall Haber says, big fan on all the good work you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Believe that's it. My throat's still a little dry. So I'm not sure what else I can add here, but I'm having a good time. There's one story that happened earlier this week. I never got to it. Maybe I will just cover it randomly now, having not prepped at all. But I did enjoy watching this clip, so I want to share it with all of you and just discuss it. So live on CNBC, there was a massive argument between two hosts. Now, this is something that you don't normally see happen publicly, live on air, but it happened. So I'm going to play this for you and give you my thoughts.
You panicked about the market, panicked about COVID, panicked about the ventilators, panicked about the PPE, panicked about ever going out again, panicked that we'd ever get back to normal.
Joseph, you didn't panic about anything.
What good is it? Why not help people keep their head? I understand that.
100,000 people died, Joe, and all you did was try to help your friend, the president. That's what you did. Every single morning on this show. Every single morning on this show, you have used and abused your position, Joe.
That's totally unfair.
You have used and abused your position.
I'm trying to help investors keep their cool, keep their heads, and as it turned out, that's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. They should have kept their heads. If they had listened to you, Andrew, we're supposed to be at about 8,000.
I wasn't arguing to go sell your stocks, Joseph. I was arguing about people's lives.
We understand.
People's lives.
Andrew, it's a global pandemic.
Do the news. I'm begging you to do the news, Joseph.
It's a global pandemic.
I'm begging you.
Andy.
Please.
All right. Wow. That was a little refreshing. Now, a lot of this has to be at least a little performative. I mean, they have to be aware that clips like this go viral and it's going to help them. I mean, who the hell watches CNBC? Who? Do you know anybody that watches CNBC? If you do, I'm guessing they work in Wall Street, because why the hell else would you be watching CNBC? This is the network that essentially, I mean, it's like Fox Business. They're just very conservative, very capitalist views on politics. Andrew Ross Sorkin, the guy on the left there that was pissed off at let me get the names here, at Joe Kernan on the right. Andrew Ross Sorkin, he interviews billionaires all the time in a positive light. Like, he's not super critical of billionaires when he interviews them. He gives them a platform, whether on this show or otherwise, and is really the go-to journalist when it comes to getting someone to interview a billionaire, whether for an event or whatever. So, like, no love here to Ross Sorkin, but at the very least, I guess you could say, he's able to see the real divide between people's lives during a pandemic and what is best for the capitalist class. So Joe Kernan here, I guess I don't watch this network. I don't know who does again, but I guess Joe Kernan was very focused or has been very focused on what is best for investors and how you're going to make the most money during this crisis. While Andrew Ross Sorkin has been a little more critical of that sort of coverage because he sees the actual impact on human lives and can understand, hey, right now there are, over 40 million new Americans that are Americans that are newly unemployed. Many of them, maybe he doesn't make this connection, but many of those people, millions of them, don't have health insurance now because they had health insurance tied to their employer. So he's able to hopefully, at least partially, see the cost when it comes to the actual Americans impacted by this virus, even though his network, again, is geared completely towards money and how to make the most money for these people on Wall Street. But he's able to see that divide where Joe Kernan has been focused on the investors because, again, these are the circles they're in. So I enjoyed this yelling match, this shouting match, but ultimately nothing's going to really change. CNBC will continue to be a show for Wall Street or a network for Wall Street. And again, Andrew Ross Sorkin is no angel either. So while this was enjoyable, really it didn't really mean all that much. All right. Okay. I think I saw some more chats. Okay, I'm gonna grab the last chats and then I'm gonna be out of here. So get your chats in now if you got anything to add. Kevin Fallhaber says thoughts on the People for Jesse movement. The People for Jesse movement? I don't even know of this. I have nothing against Jesse Ventura. In fact, I think, look, if the Green Party was smart and they wanted to actually raise their profile and potentially hit that 5%, they would get somebody on the ticket like Jesse Ventura, who's able to reach conservative voters, able to reach left-wing voters, has this anti-corporate or anti-establishment, perspective, and at the same time is also a celebrity. I think Jesse Ventura is the kind of candidate you would want as the Green Party, or as not even just the Green Party, but any third party. So I think it would be awesome if he run the ticket. I mean, seeing him on the debate stage would be also awesome. If there ever is a debate stage, there may be no stages. Just I guess they would do a debate through Zoom, through Skype. I don't know. But I got no issue with it. As I said earlier, I think it's important to have this, basically have an all the above strategy when it comes to primarying Democratic politicians and attempting to turn the party into a more left-wing party. I think that's a good avenue. I think it's a good avenue to try and build a Green Party or try and build a third party. But again, a lot of that building has to happen at the local level, state level, has to happen, over the course of 4 years and not just 6 months before a general. Like, you actually have to build this interest, this movement between elections. You're not going to just make it appear all of a sudden out of nowhere 6 months before the election. So it's important to have an all the above approach. And I think wherever you fit in that discussion, as long as you're engaged and you're involved in something, I think it's important. Gretzky R says these candidates need more exposure. Are you talking about the people that should be should be interviewed? Yes, I agree. I hear you. Mr. Sir says all my local businesses in my state are opening up as COVID-19 cases are skyrocketing, breaking local records on cases. I have at-risk family. You don't say where you're from, but yeah, we're not over this stuff. I mean, I hope people realize, yeah, the pandemic is still going on. It's still strong in many places. And like from where I'm in right now in Ontario, right now the cases haven't gone down. They're just consistently staying the same. So every day there's like 300 new cases. It's down from, I think the peak maybe was like 600 new cases in a day in Ontario, but it's sitting steady around 300 new cases a day. That's a lot. still going on right now, and there's no real drop off. So, and that's in Ontario, where, you know, it could be a lot worse. I could be in, I don't know what's a bad state right now, but I could be in a state like Georgia where the governor just doesn't give a shit. Like, and in some ways you could say Doug Ford doesn't give a shit or doesn't know what he's doing. And he doesn't when it comes to opening the province back up. But the point being that, yeah, we are still in the middle of this, and you have to continue being vigilant. Wear a mask wherever you go. Stay, like, understand this is not over. Make sure you're physically distancing. Make sure you are staying within your bubble and go out as little as possible. I know it sucks, but it's the only way right now to get rid of the virus until there is a vaccine. Okay. I think there's a couple more, and then I will get out of here. Themis and Thoth says you can have first, second, and third along with manslaughter. I cover it. Yeah, I guess you could. But for whatever reason, they have decided not to do that and just focus completely on third and manslaughter. 6 Diego has a message deleted. All right. I think that's it. All right. Thank you all for coming. It's a great time. Glad you're all here. So again, new live show mornings 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Twitch. Link is below the video to the Twitch channel. Just follow it. You'll be notified when I go live. And that's it. Be safe. Physically distance. Oh, wait. There's 2 more chats coming in right now. You came in just in time. Just in time. Mr. Sir is from Utah. There you go. Sorry, I'm from Utah. Largest increase yesterday. Yeah. There you go. We're still in the middle of it. And there's going to be... I mean... People are talking about like a second wave, but I feel like the first wave isn't even over yet. So who knows when the second wave is going to come, because these like mini waves keep coming. So I don't see this being over anytime soon. I just don't. The way people are treating this, still going out, being careless. Yeah, I don't know. Christopher Chamberlain says from Hamilton, here's my monthly. I'll email you. All right. Thank you, Christopher. All right, I think that's it. One more refresh here. Yes, that is it. All right, thank you all for coming. I'm back next week. Stay safe. Make sure you physically distance and do what you can to stop the spread of COVID-19. All right, later.